This is Monica from RDA Media. Today I have our first ever story from Western Australia. Western Australia has really hit the headlines this week with its 5-day harsh lockdown for one case. This story is about Samuel and Deanna, who travelled to Queensland to see his mother over the holiday break. When they came back, they did not want to get a PCR test, and their story is quite astonishing.
I will die before I get that test done. I really will. Why are they so insistent on getting everybody to have it as often as they can? Something is not right here, and I don't want to be a part of that.
Interestingly enough, the deadline for them to comply and take the test is actually in about 6 hours, so I will definitely update you on their story. But till then, you're going to want to hear this story.
12 months imprisonment for not getting a COVID test done, where I would be in jail with murderers, and it's kind of crazy to me.
It's very interesting to see how the fine amounts and the intimidation changes throughout the last 24 days that they've been locked down, or isolated, I should say. Anyway, here's their story. You arrived back in Western Australia 22 days ago now, and you didn't want to take a PCR test. So what happened when they realised that you were stubborn and did not want to take a test?
We had a call from the sergeant who asked us why we didn't get our COVID test taken. And we said that we weren't going to get it taken. They said, why didn't you phone us to contact us to let us know that you weren't going to take the COVID test? And we said we didn't know what phone number to call. Anyway, they said, you weren't going to take it though, were you? And I was like, no, we're not going to take it.
You don't want to, just that there's any consequences of further quarantine and possible fines.
And so he sent some officers over to our house that day. The two officers came without masks at about 12 p.m. and said the same thing that he had said to us, that we might receive a fine and go to court, that we had 24 hours to comply. So the next day, mid-morning, the sergeant then called again and said, have you had the test taken? He knows that we didn't because he has records, but I said, no, we haven't taken the test. And he said that he would have to call the health department for the next step. And he said some officers would come around and tell us what the situation would be. So 2 officers came later that day at about 12 o'clock. And also a lady representing the health department came. They said that we may receive a $20,000 fine each, and that reasonable force may be used to ensure our compliance with the COVID test.
It's an offence for a person to fail without reasonable excuse to comply with this direction, punishable by a fine of up to $20,000 for individuals. Please also note that if you do not comply with this direction, reasonable force may be taken to ensure your compliance.
Now, I said to them, I asked, what is reasonable force? And they said, whatever force I use to resist, they can use to get me to comply with the test. So I said, what does that mean? Does that mean like I push your hand away, you push your hand toward me, and we keep pushing forever sort of thing? Anyway, I asked also if he was allowed into my home to force me to have this test taken. And he said if the health department allows it, if the health department says so, then they can, that they don't need a warrant. They can just enter my home and give me the test.
Okay, so they warned you that you could get a $20,000 fine, and maybe they can come into your home and hold and use reasonable force, whatever that means. So what actually happened after that?
They also, the health department said she'll email what reasonable force was, and they never received any emails. And there was another question we asked, and she never replied to it.
Are you able to also email me what reasonable force is, what that would entail if it would be going into my home? Thank you.
So what happened was, after I had that conversation with those 2 officers and they left, I then called the surgeon to clarify what was going on, and I recorded this conversation. I said, I asked about the fine and the force that they would use. He said they have the power to force me, but most likely wouldn't.
Please also note that if you do not comply with this direction, reasonable force may be used to ensure your compliance.
Yeah, it does say that, but I haven't heard of it happening. I don't think it will. It's just something they can do because maybe technically But if you don't, no one's interested. No one's going to tie you down and shove swabs up your nose.
Oh, aren't they?
No one's going to grab you and do that. So
force me, because the police officer said that if I resist him forcing the test on me, that he can use whatever force I use to resist on me to force the test on me.
That's true, but because that's what could happen. It's a bit like the $20,000 maximum fine. That is what could get at the most. But if you get charged with failing to follow this medical direction there, I think the chances of you getting a $20,000 fine are extremely slim.
So then the next day at 6 p.m, 2 officers, or 6:30 p.m, 2 officers came, no masks again. They issued us another notice and gave us 8 days to comply.
It may be an offence to fail to comply with this direction, punishable by imprisonment for up to 12 months or a fine of up to $50,000 for individuals.
I'll fight this right to the end. There's no way that I'm going to do that test at all.
Okay.
So I'll see you in 8 days, I guess.
From $1,000 fines to $50,000 fines and or 12 months in prison, and probably not getting strapped down in a hospital and force tested. Like, it seems to be a lot of maybes and mights and probablys, and like, do you actually know what's going on?
I think when they say maybe, I think that you have to comply with these things yourself. Like, I don't think that it is a thing that they can force on you to do. In my opinion, I'm just going to fight this. You know, I don't think that. Yeah, 12 months imprisonment for not getting a COVID test done, where I would be in jail with murderers, and it's kind of crazy to me. But at the end of 8 days, we would have been quarantining for 24 days. So we absolutely do not have COVID in the slightest, yet they still want us to get the COVID test. Why do they want us to get a COVID test when we don't have COVID? Absolutely no way we have COVID, yet they want us to get a COVID test. Strange. I don't care what they say. I'm just going to fight this right to the end. I'm not getting that test done. I have suspicions about what that test is, and I'm not going to get that test done under any circumstances. I will die before I get that test done. I really will.
So, Samuel, how has it been for you to go through all of this?
It's been pretty hard because my father died as well, and the funeral was on last Monday, so it's been pretty tough. But I'm just quite surprised. The biggest surprise was within 24 hours how the fine jumped from 20,000 to 50,000. It's like they just trying scare tactics, and they just tried. Maybe last one was put a prison in there. So I'll be surprised if they're going to even up it this time when they see us on Friday to maybe 100,000 or 2 years or 5 years imprisonment for not taking tests.
As you can see from Samuel and Deanna's story, there seems to be no consistency in the rules and the legislations and the fine amounts and what they can and can't do to enforce someone to get a PCR test. You know, they have been isolated for 24 days. They're not sick. They don't have COVID. They don't have the flu. Why would they still need to get tested? It just doesn't really make any sense. All in the name of public health, and I don't know what public health risk Samuel and Deanna really pose. It will be interesting in the next 6 hours. Police will show up to their doors and we will find out what the next step will be. It will be very interesting to see if they actually do enforce the $50,000 fine or the 12 months imprisonment. And the worst case scenario would be if they actually did hold them down and test them, because as the sergeant said, they actually have the power to do that. I really hope that I'm not updating you in a few hours with that information, because that would be a very scary thing to see, and it would really worry me for Australians' future. Thank you so much, Samuel and Deanna, for sharing your story, and I will definitely keep my viewers up to date on what's happening next. If you want to see more content and more stories like this, be sure to follow us on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and of course our website, which is written down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. There are lots of people in Australia that want to say no and not comply, but they're really scared of situations like what you're going through. If someone was considering not complying and having to deal with part or all of what you're dealing with, what advice would you give them?
You don't understand like what is at stake here. Like after this will be forced vaccinations where they can enter your home, remove your underwear and force vaccinate you. Like after that, what will it be like in putting the microchip into your hand or your forehead or whatever? After that, what will it be like linking you up to AI technology and having full control over your brain and everything else? Like it's insane what is heading into the future. Like, are you going to wait till the last minute before you stand up or try to fight for your rights when it's too late? Or are you going to stand up now when there still are rights, when it's still possible to make a stand? You know, I don't want to wait till the last second.